Welcome, everybody. We're just in the pre-show. A little late there with a small technical issue, which is hopefully now fixed. Ed Worley, cheers to you. Jody Shields is here from the home country of Alistair Murray, and Ian Murray for that matter. Peter Taylor saying greetings from New York City. Ted Ryman, hello from Cape Town. And a warm welcome to all of you for our show number 542. Julie, do you know where that is?
I've been told.
That's a webcam.
Yes.
From downtown Melbourne, looking to the south from the Platinum Apartments over the Crown Casino Hotel, where I used to stay when we were doing Formula One down there. Why do we have Melbourne on? Well, because as probably all of you know, our guest today, standing patiently by, is Alistair Murray. We'll be with him in a second. Good morning, where it's, 06:05 down there, Alistair. We'll get to you in a sec. Thank you for being up bright and early and looking so lively. Julie, I trust you're well.
I am, thank you.
Any hot tips, any news?
Not any that you want to hear.
Okay, we'll take that as an okay. Good afternoon from San Francisco. Welcome to show number 542. I'm your host, Tom Eamon. Our guest today, Alistair Murray. We're, as usual, from the Beach Street Yacht Club Studio B here in San Francisco. We're going to have Matt Whitfield and his good friend Emma, his girlfriend Emma, here with us tonight at the
Oh, that's great.
Yacht Club. They're driving up from Newport Beach.
We'll get some more insight on the...
So, yeah, he was our co-commentator down there at the Governor's Cup.
Right.
Clayton Embley, greetings from the Solomons Islands, Maryland. I got the boat in the water just in time. Yar Vahe, fresh home from the Ho. Yar is. He was over at Sail GP. Warren Schasser in Brisbane, not too far from Alistair.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter Taylor saying it was fantastic to have Julia on as our featured guest last Tuesday. Julia, did you watch the show?
Not yet.
It's hard to watch yourself.
Yeah. I will. I never say everything I want to say or make all the points I want to make, so I didn't.
So why worry about it?
I just won't.
Andy Armstrong saying hi from Hampton, Virginia. Let's get into this one. The pre-start, thanks to the Castle Cove Sailing Club and our good super fuzzy John Emmett. You know what day it is today, Julia?
I haven't the slightest idea.
Well, this is probably a good time to bring Alistair Murray in because we are talking about International Beard Day.
Aha. No wonder I don't know.
Alistair, do you celebrate International Beard Day in Melbourne?
Huh?
G'day, Tom and Julia. I think every day is International Beard Day, isn't it?
Alistair Murray.
Or should be.
Up bright and early.
Yeah.
You know, we're not...
I know Jody would like that.
I was going to say Jody will agree, yeah.
Jody will certainly agree. And Alan Long and Manhattan Beach and a few others. Well, I'm not a big beer drinker. I love beer. And nothing tastes better on a hot day than a good cold beer
exactly
after a day of sailing. Right, Alistair?
I absolutely agree. After a tough yacht race or a big bike ride, a cold beer, nothing beats it.
Well, and it's good because it reinstates your carbohydrates, right? And some of those...
Mother's milk.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, I know the Europeans make lactating mothers.
Mother's milk. Jody Shields, I concur. He says, well, what is this about International Beer Day? It's a celebration on the first Friday. It's smart, these people, to do it on a Friday of every August. It's only since 2007. It was founded in, believe it or not, Santa Cruz, California, down just south of us here, good sailing town, by Jesse Avshalomov. It sounds Russian or at least Slavic. Since its inception, International Beer Day has grown from a small, localized event in the western U.S. into a worldwide celebration spanning 207 cities, 80 countries, and 6 continents. How do they know that? Specifically, International Beer Day has 3 declared purposes: to gather with friends and enjoy the taste of
Beer.
Beer, to celebrate those responsible for brewing and serving it, well, of course, and to unite the world under the banner of beer by celebrating the beers of all nations together on a single day. Alistair, is that your beverage of choice?
Look, I can drink anything, Tom, but I'd have to say my two beverages of choice are beer for a particularly hot day, or a rum and coke, or a dark and stormy. I think rum is the sailor's drink, Tom.
Spoken like a true sailor. Daniel Forster is checking in from Jamestown, Rhode Island, the island out in the middle of Narragansett Bay, just across from Newport. I think Danielle's a bit of a wine drinker, last I knew, being a Swiss. But here's some information about this International Beer Day, crazy beer facts. I didn't know most of this. Zithologists. Did you know that, Julia? I didn't either. And I don't know how they knew that the first professional brewers were all women. How do they know that? I'm talking about back 1,000
They left a
years.
message.
Czech Republic, look at that. They're the biggest consumer beer. I like their Pilsner Urquell. Had that. Alcoholic, it was not considered an alcoholic drink in vodka-drinking Russia until recently. The oldest brewery is in Weihenstephan in Germany. And I did not know this, Senosilicaphobia. I had to look that up. How to pronounce that? Let's go back to that. Senosilicaphobia. There we go. Senosilicaphobia, the fear of having an empty beer glass.
Oh,
did
that's
you
a
know
good word to know.
Alistair, did you know that? Did you?
No, but I'm going to use that frequently.
I think Jody probably has that. But it's more than senosilicaphobia. It's not just an empty beer glass. It turns out it is a real word, at least according to dictionaries I looked in. Senosilicaphobia is the fear of an empty glass of any type. This phobia can pertain to glasses lacking in beer, wine, or a cocktail. Many avid American drinkers suffer from this particularly cruel fear.
Aha.
Julia, have you heard that word? You went to Stanford.
No, I've never heard nor seen it. I'm glad to know it.
So if you and Alistair haven't seen or heard it, I mean, I certainly had never heard of it. Okay, we'll carry on. But here's something a little classier, Alistair. This is for you, because it's also international. Here's your first clue.
Oysters.
Oysters. It's
Oysters.
International Oyster Day. Yes, International Oyster Day. And did you know there are over 100 different species of oysters? Interestingly, oysters tend to take on the character, no surprise, the water in which they live.
Yeah.
Yada, yada. And the Chesapeake Bay in this country produces the most, I didn't know that, more oysters than any other body of water. And only, last one there, only 1 out of every 10,000 oysters will produce a pearl. Okay, I knew it was not many. Now we got Tom's. Goes off on another tangent. I couldn't help myself. I hope you approve, Alistair, of me going off on a tangent here.
Well, before you do, Tom, I just on the oysters, and I do fear Julia wagging her finger at me, but I was told that oysters are an aphrodisiac, and I bought a dozen of them the other day, and only 8 of them worked. So I was a bit disappointed.
Okay, well, with that, I will go off on this aphrodisiac, and it pertains to oysters. And since we have such a worldly crowd on here, people all over the planet, did you know these are some of the, by Boat International, no less an authority on oysters than Boat International magazine, says the bluff oysters from the southernmost tip of New Zealand South Island are some of the most prolific, grown in the cold waters off the, what is that, Foveaux Strait? The number of oysters harvested has been limited for decades, yada, yada, but apparently that is a cool part of the world for oysters, the bluff oysters from the southernmost tip of New Zealand. Okay, now, who knows where the next big oyster area in the world is, according to Boat International? France, La Rochelle, another great sailing town. Why are these all sailing countries and towns? France's most renowned oysters are spéciales. How do you say that in French, Julia? Giardot. And they're produced by the family of the same name. They're based in La Rochelle. Oysters are famous for their meaty flesh, which supplies an, quote, endless ocean of flavors. I mean, this is a sailing show, right? We got to talk about an endless ocean of flavors, Alistair.
Mm.
Now this, I did not know this, and I lived there for 8 years. I had no idea, except I know they put them in their paella. Although France is normally the first place that springs to mind for the world's best oysters, the Delta de l'Ebre, I guess, situated between Barcelona and Valencia, is a top contender. The oysters are said to have unique flavors. They combine the saltiness of the Med with the sweet freshness of the River Ebro. I had no idea, and as I said, I lived there for bloody, 8 years in Valencia. Leslie and Meg and I did. A couple more here, according to Boat International. Australia, Alistair.
There you go.
Yeah.
Australia is famed for its Sydney rock oysters, which are found in a variety of locations around the country, including Shark Bay. Is that, how do you say that? Wingan Inlet in the east coast. Wingan Inlet in the east coast of New South Wales. Sydney rock oysters are small and soft and have a distinctive taste, although their flavors can differ depending upon which. Yeah, okay.
There's nothing better.
You know them.
Oh gosh, yes. Used to
Also, the Coffin Bay oysters from South Australia are very famous.
Coffin.
Sorry, Julia.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
Coffin Bay oysters.
Coffin Bay.
Julia, anything else on these famously good oysters?
I do know we used to get a dozen for $1.25, and that is no longer true.
I'm sure that is not the case. Well, finally, what many regard as the best oysters in the world, also another yachting capital, Matunuck, depending upon if you're from Rhode Island or not. Matunuck oysters are grown in Potter Pond, an aquaculture farm in East Matunuck, Rhode Island. That's over by North Kingston. That's over on the other side of where Daniel Forster lives. And these farmed oysters are harvested in a salt pond to give them their characterful, is that a word?
Sure it is.
Briny flavor and slightly sweet finish. Okay? Anything else on oysters? Any other jokes, Alistair?
No jokes, but my best oyster experience, I think, was in Toronto. And I went to an oyster bar there and had 2 dozen in one sitting, and there were 12 varieties with 2 of each. So you got to really, really compare them, and that was particularly memorable.
Oh, it sounds good.
Do you drink beer with oysters, or do you drink champagne? What do you drink with it?
Just about anything, but champagne is a good idea.
Okay. Jody Shields says we have some great oysters in Wanji. They are called leg. Oh God!
Oh,
leg openers.
Julie,
Julia, that calls for.
That's a finger wag.
Okay, we got to get Alistair.
I must apologize for my fellow countrymen.
Good luck.
Alistair, we need to get you a little higher up in your shot there, so you have a little less headspace. Well, you're leaning back and try to equal. There we go.
That better?
Perfect.
Better, much better. So much for leg openers. Jody! Stingray says we eat PNW Pacific Northwest oysters only in months containing an R and only on days that end in Y. Ted Ryman says the best oyster, he's down in Cape Town, as you know, the best oysters I ever ate was in Terrigal. Is that a Terrigal?
Terrigal,
yeah. New South Wales, he says.
Where is that?
That's Nathan Outridge country.
Nathan Outridge is from there.
Ah.
Yeah, that's up near Jody.
Ah.
And then there's another finger wagger coming here. I see here, Julia. James Frederick Bland is saying hi from Austin, Texas. He's saying, what about Rocky Mountain oyster? Alistair, do you know what Rocky Mountain oysters are? Julia?
Yeah, I do.
I know it's a joke, but you need to remind me.
They're the cojones.
Yeah.
They're the testicles of Rocky Mountain, of mountain goats, I guess, right?
Yeah, a variety of things. Yeah.
Variety of things. Daniel Forster is a complete gentleman, the Swiss clockmaker that he is. Arcachon, how do you say that in French, Julia? Arcachon, based in France?
Yeah.
Oyster capital. Okay, enough about oysters.
We'll have to quiz him about it. He's going to be here in a couple of weeks.
He will, hopefully, for the Big Boat Series,
Yeah.
you mean. Okay, enough about oysters. I just one other Fozy note. Do you see who's in the middle of that shot?
Yes.
That's Pindar. That's Andrew a couple nights ago. Now, you go to Cows Week, they have a regatta. And do you know another regatta in the world? You see that shot? Okay. and that is under a tent at Cows Week, and it's black tie. Only in the UK do they have a black tie dinner right in the middle of their week-long regatta. That's Andrew Pindar at the RORC dinner with a bit of a magenta hue on that shot. Bravo Zulu to them. Okay, enough. Anything else for the pre-start before we get into the sailing part of the show? Okay, I guess we will.
Another tangent, yes.
That is not a tangent. We
No.
to recognize what our foes here are up to, and see if there's any other comments. Way overdressed for sailors, J. Frederick Bland is saying. And then one other last oyster comment. Nothing compares to Shinkotig. How do you say that? Shinkotig. Sounds like a Native American name. Oysters from Virginia. There's oysters all over the place. Everybody thinks theirs are the best. Okay, carrying on here to the starting line. I've been added a horn. Did you hear that, Julia? Got to have sound effects now. Let's get to our report this morning from our master mentor, John Emmett, who is at just wrapping up the RS Games.
We get Lucy, Ruby, Archie, Olivia.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. Well, I survived the RS Games. Just still got a bit of a bruised nose here. Lovely Lily helping with the camera work here. So if the camera goes a bit funny, it's because she walked back into somebody. You can probably guess from the background noise and the plethora of boats, the event has now ended. And just so happy to do the event. I said, I think probably I need to get bigger. Well, maybe I'm not going to get bigger. Or fitter. Well, maybe not going to get fitter. Well, maybe I'll try an Aero 6 another time. But it was a really good week. It's just amazing how many people RS put into the event. It's just a benchmark to see the manufacturer supporting the class so much. So prize giving, big thank you to Sally and Pete at the Academy, and you know, there's people I see all the time and they are absolute legends. But the striking thing for me is RS, the number of staff they had here to make this RS Games work. It almost filled the stage when they stood all next to each other. And I think the media has been really good, and that's something which will, I think, encourage young people to the sport. And there's no rest for wicked. I'm straight back to coaching Ilkas, going to be picking up at the airport. You'll see there's a few toppers going to start appearing in the background, actually before the RSs are fully packed up, because they have their nationals here. And then at the end of the month, we've got the Ilka Skills Week. So it's a busy old time. But for Pete, who's stepping down from CEO of the Academy, that was his last major event. And I've got to say, it's been pretty emotional. And I'm very lucky to do what I do. And a lot of people had a hard time in COVID. And I think now we really realise what we missed. Don't get run over. It's all right, just to prove it's live, we nearly got run over by a forklift truck. We had charter boats here, they're all packed away. And yeah, hope everybody has a great show. And it's so nice to be chatting from active boat parks again.
Look at those clouds. Fantastic day, fantastic shot. Thanks, Lily. Thanks for shooting John's video. Alistair, any thoughts, comments about the Sailing Academy there in Weymouth? They've turned out some great medalists. It's really between your country and theirs, I think, as to who are the top Olympic countries these days. Oops, just a sec. Sorry, go ahead. Say again.
I'd have to say the UK has us shaded at the moment, but we're coming after them. And we've got a great program here. But yeah, I think the two biggest hazards in John's life are deck chairs and forklifts. But I do enjoy his reports, and seeing the photograph back there of Andrew Pindar before too just makes me reflect on tuning into Sailing Illustrated, Tom and Julia. These are the Fozy, the friends of Sailing Illustrated, and I don't know these people, but they feel like my friends. And that's because of the community you've created. So I think it's fantastic.
You know, that's so true for a lot of us. We've never met Ryman.
Yeah.
A couple of these other Americans we've met. And of course, you and I have known each other for years and years. Yeah. But, you know, I see you more often now on the show than we do in person. But what a great thought, Julia.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I love our community of Fozy, and most of them aren't new to me. So it's very exciting.
It is indeed.
Well, I can't wait. I can't wait to meet Julia in person. I want to give you a big hug, Julia. That's the way I feel.
I can't wait. Can't
She'll
wait.
be on the next plane, Alistair. Paul Homchick saying, oyster lovers, when in Boston, check out the Neptune Oyster Bar, a great place. And there's lots of, okay, we said no more. What? Stingrays, why did the oyster's girlfriend leave him? He was shellfish in the seabed.
He was shellfish in the seabed.
Oh, oh, Julia.
Well, you know an oyster or two, I'm sure.
I think John's bigger problem is not the forklift drivers, it's the dogs on the beach when he passed that dog the other day. John Emmett, go to the, whoops, where is it? Yeah, get to the front of the fleet is his saying, and he has another saying these days, and that is, nothing comes between me and my Calvins.
Oh.
We saw the report the other day. I thought that was good. Alistair Murray is with us from Melbourne, where it's 6:20, almost 5 in the morning there. We have a live shot again from downtown Melbourne, looking to the south at Crown Casino there, that hotel. When I was doing Formula One, we used to stay, the McLaren team used to stay there. And I had the great pleasure, Alistair, of in that casino playing the guitar all night long with George Harrison. It's a little hard to believe.
Epic.
And we had won, it was the 97 Grand Prix in Melbourne. And I don't think McLaren had won a race. And this is my first ever. We'd flown down to Australia, a couple stories. We'd flown down there, and first of all, we found out there was a black tie opening. You talk about Pindar and the cows dinner at the RORC, but we found out there was an opening black tie dinner for the Formula One season, because the F1 season used to always start in Melbourne, and everybody'd fly down from Europe and US, but mostly Europe, and loved to be in the summer. You know, this is in March,
right
at the end of the summer down there. And so we had black tie dinner, and this is all new to me, this F1 stuff. And one of our sponsors was Hugo Boss for the McLaren team.
Oh.
And no problem. Dennis didn't have a tux. The drivers didn't have tuxes. I didn't have a tux. We all went over to the Hugo Boss, the store there in Melbourne. We were fitted out. I still have that tux.
It's got to be gorgeous.
It barely, it's so old, it's back in style now. And that town of yours is so fabulous for not only water sports and F1, but all sorts of sports. You have some kind of a statewide sports council that's famously good, right?
Yeah, Melbourne major events that attracts events from around the world. But your Hugo Boss suit, Tom, I'm sure it fits you like a glove. It probably it sticks out in 5 places.
Well, I've had it let out a little bit in a few places, but it still sort of fits, and but that was a wonderful experience. And then the other thing that happened is that who was it? It was not Mika Hakkinen. It was David Coulthard, the Scottish driver, was our other driver. And McLaren hadn't won a race since 92. And this is now 97, 5 years later. And Coulthard won that race. And I thought, oh, this is easy. You go there and you spend some money. And they got a new sponsor in the company, the German company I was working for. And it seemed pretty easy. We won the race. I had no idea how hard it really was to win a race. And then we had a massive celebration up there in the ballroom up there on top of that Crown Casino Hotel. And he was a big petrol head, motorhead, F1 fan. He was George Harrison, and his kid's name, who's kind of a half-baked musician, but he's okay. And he was there, and there was another guy on the team that played, and they said, "Eamon, you play, get up there and play with him." And we played all night. It was great fun in that hotel. I'll never forget it.
That's fun.
So one of the highlights of my life, Tom, was I was living in California in 1980 and 1981, and went to the Long Beach Grand Prix. And Alan Jones, the Australian, won that day. And I really, really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, somebody just made a nice comment here. Ed Worley saying, Sailing Illustrated is like hanging out with your friends at the yacht club bar. Yeah, we do.
Exactly.
We do cover the waterfront. Warren Shasser, there's an oyster bar on Bruny Island in Tasmania called Get Shucked. Is that true, Alistair?
Yeah. Yes, it is. I wish I'd thought of that myself, but it is true. It is there.
Not that I doubt Warren, who's, of course,
It's,
he's from Adelaide, or he's from Brisbane. That's right. Get shucked.
Yeah. Ed Worley
it's a bit
said,
like your liquor store in Beaver Liquors.
Julia?
Sorry, Colorado.
Yeah, Chris actually reminded me of Donnie, Dahni, Donnie, kind of an Indian spelling, I guess, of the name Donnie, and he was there playing. And I'll tell you, George Harrison was so scuzzy. It was just an embarrassment. He used to live in Maui, and you said he had a place at Hamilton Island?
Yeah, I was at Hamilton Island last week doing some sailing, and I've done a report for Sailing Illustrated that will come your way. We motored past, coming back into the marina house, and one of the guys on the boat said, "That's George Harrison's house." And I've heard that before, that he either owns or did own a house at Hamilton Island. I've never seen him there. I don't know if he spends any time there, but I believe he does own a place.
Well, he's passed away now, so maybe his kid, kid has it. But yeah, he passed away 3, 4, 5 years ago, and I knew he had a place in Maui near where my brother has a place. Jody Shields is saying, heading off to Airlie Beach, which, as you know, is just up near Hamilton Island, tomorrow with my new boat, Pub Bus. It's a Thompson 7, and I can't wait to try the beer on International Beer Day. Jody, what could be more appropriate?
Yeah.
Okay, Alistair, let's get into more specifically into you. You told me by email a day or so ago that your voice actually sounds quite good. But Dr. John Campbell, the British PhD nurse instructor professor, who we've been following his channel. He's got, I think, over 3 million subscriptions. But this is from you can see 18 hours ago. I just took that screen grab before we went to air, and it's already had over 250,000 views. And he's talking about some very disturbing news about permanent long COVID, not just temporary long COVID, but permanent long COVID, Julia. And you know that our FOSI, the Commodore of the Madison Beach club, remind me his name. I'll think of it in a moment.
I want to say Atkinson, but that's not quite right.
And he was the first person we knew that had COVID. And he's had a bit of a bout with longer COVID as well. But there is now a syndrome called permanent long COVID. And I know we don't want to go into this too much because we're going to have Dr. Andrew McIrvin on next Tuesday to bring us up to date on that. But tell us about your experience, Alistair. You've had a pretty rough go with COVID.
Yeah, I'll get into it. Before I do, I just thank you for the shot from Crown Casino, because I just want to point out to you and all the FOSI that over my shoulder it's black. It's nighttime here, and I thought I would sit here so that at the end of the show I can perhaps put my laptop out, hold out the window, and show you a Melbourne sunrise. And you'll notice the colour change over my shoulder as the show progresses. And I can't believe that I agreed to be on the show in our winter and your summer, when I could have done it the other way around, and it would have been 8 o'clock. And it would have been 8 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, so the COVID. There's lucky people and there's unlucky people, and I've been one of the unlucky ones. And this is a really positive show, and I like to have it fun and lighthearted, but there's a serious side to life as well, and I'm one of the unlucky ones when it comes to COVID.
Well, and the reason I'm so happy you're willing to talk about it, and you sent me the email, and I asked you, are you willing to talk about it, because I think it's instructive for all of us. So please.
So my story is, I caught COVID. Tracy and I caught it at the same time, actually, at a yacht club function at Meetung Yacht Club, and we know exactly where we got it. We got COVID 4 months ago, and we had it for a week, and we were both quite ill. Now, we really did feel bad, but probably not much worse than you would get from a regular bad cold. But it was worse, but not too much worse. Then we came good, and I was good for 3 weeks, and Tracy's been good ever since. But about 3 weeks later, which was about 10 weeks ago, I copped the perfect storm of symptoms and illnesses and aftershocks, if you like, is the way that my doctor termed it. He said, "You long COVID led to your defences being lowered," and in succession I copped the flu, pneumonia, bronchiectasis, which is a lung disease, and a collapsed lung. And I've had endless antibiotics to try to clear up the lung infection. I've had CT scans and consultations with a respiratory specialist, and here I am as one of the fittest guys that I ever knew. As you know, Tom and Julia, I mean, I ride my bike since I retired 6 years ago. I've ridden at an average of 1,000 kilometres a month. I ride virtually every day. I have not been on my bike for 4 months once, and I get puffed out walking up the stairs. The CT scans showed the collapsed lung, but they also showed some permanent lung damage, some scarring, which may or may not be from this episode, or they questioned whether it had been from something in the past. But all I know is that I'm struggling. My voice permanently sounds strained from the respiratory challenge of talking, and walking up the stairs is quite a chore for me now. So I'm looking forward to getting fitter, stronger, healthier, and getting back on my bike. And all I can say is this has really knocked me around.
That's scary.
How many jabs?
I had the three jabs. I'm booked in for my fourth, and I had a flu shot as well. So it's not as if I haven't been doing the right thing.
Well, exactly. Okay. Well,
maybe I would have got sicker if I hadn't. Who can ever know what impact the vaccinations have had? But I'm glad I had them, and I'm glad to be vertical.
Well, that's what they say, that the people who are vaccinated have a much lighter case of it. It seems like half of the St. Francis Yacht Club, there's a private club, the Bohemian Club here in San Francisco that people have heard of. It went through their encampment up at the Bohemian Grove a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. Luckily, down at Balboa Yacht Club, as far as I'm aware, there's the 12 teams of 3 or 4 kids, so that's 40 plus people, and the 150 volunteers. I'm not aware that anybody got it, but we were outdoors the whole time, and I think perhaps what Andrew McIrvin told us, the first thing he told us the first time he came on the show 2 years ago, talked about COVID, is get outdoors, get fresh air, get exercise.
Go sailing. That's what he said.
And don't get locked, go sailing, but don't get locked up in a room with a bunch of people and the windows closed and so on. Well, you don't sound bad, Alistair. You sound pretty darn good.
Yes.
Well, I might sound different by the end of the show. I find that if I talk a lot, which is my tool of trade,
I was going to say.
If I talk a lot, I fatigue, and you may notice it. I'm actually feeling pretty good right now, and I actually feel fine. And everybody says to me, "Gee, you must have a really sore throat from the way my voice is sounding, particularly later in the day." And it's not sore at all. I don't have a sore throat. It's purely the respiratory challenges. We'll see how we go during the show, and hopefully I won't have to sign out early.
Well, we hope so too. But do have a look at this Dr. John Campbell at his yesterday. You find him on YouTube. Just Google it, and it's a pretty disturbing piece because he's very statistics and fact based. Wouldn't you say, Julia?
Yes, and he has 2.5 million people following him or something. I mean, a lot.
He had a lot of subs, and the guy's just down to earth. He doesn't get too excited when there's bad news. He doesn't get too wound up when there's good news. But the news he said yesterday about long COVID and exactly what you're experiencing is, he said, is disturbing, and it's not just in older folks like us. It can be in younger people as well, and yada yada. So.
And his technical tools are a piece of paper and a pencil.
Yeah, he makes us look like NBC here.
It's very easy to understand.
He's very simple but very good. So have a look at that, and then let's get into just a reminder here that Tuesday we will have our FOSI, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin is coming on. He's at Cows Week right now. Of course, it's wrapping up, but he will tell us about being up at Cork for their 2-year delayed 300th anniversary of the Royal Cork Yacht Club, now on their 302nd year. Update us on cows and everything else with the International Maxi Association, and of course COVID. So the 3 C's. And then we're going to have Andrew here in a month and change. He's coming to the Stag Cruise, the St. Francis Yacht Club.
Oh, I forgot that. Yeah. Oh, good.
So it'll be good to have him here. I haven't seen him in person
Keep him outside.
Well, that's the other thing. You talk about Stag. Okay, Alistair. We're really looking forward. This is your life and times. We've got, 8 or 9 photos here that you chose and sent. And you're a taser sailor, and a good one.
Well, thanks, Tom. Firstly, it's a pleasure and an honour to be second in line behind Julia as the featured person in the Life and Time series, and I look forward to continuing because I was actually the one that asked to know more about Julia, and I thought that was a terrific segment. So thanks for that. I've simply, when you asked me to do this, Tom, I pulled out a few random photos. They're not particularly sailing focused. A couple of them are, but I just wanted to a little bit about some sailing, some work, some cycling, some friends, some family, and in a few shots. So they're random, and I'll have a little bit of a chat to you about each. But starting with the Taser, yes, the Taser has been, I guess, my class of choice over the years. I'm onto my 10th Taser, and I've been sailing them since 1979. So I am actually the longest, I don't know what the correct word is, but I guess serving member of the Taser sailing community. I'm the longest active Taser sailor in the world, and perhaps being challenged by one guy in Holland called Connie, who sails a Taser in Holland and has since, I think, the same time, since 1979. But I've sailed with my wife, my kids, my friends. I've sailed 10 Tasers. I've done countless states, nationals, worlds. I've been around the world many times. I've got friends all around the world with the class. It's been fantastic, and I'm still sailing it. I've been state champion numerous times, national champion, world masters champion, but I've never, I've probably been top 10 in the worlds about 6 times, but I've never cracked first, second or third, and I'm giving it another go in January 2024. When the Worlds are being held here at Sandringham in Australia. And my ambition, a very lofty one, is to be not only the world's oldest dinghy sailor one day, but perhaps on the podium in a Taser Worlds. And I have a bit of a secret strategy to help myself achieve that, which I can't share with you too much, Tom and Julia, but it might involve me being at the front of the boat. So we'll see how we go. I've given up trying to helmet to the podium, so maybe it's time to crew for somebody fantastic. We'll see how we go.
Well, there's a lot of comments. Chris Exley's reminding us that Charlie McKee and his wife, I think both the McKee brothers sail Tasers. Nick Douglas down in Oz has been sailing Tasers with her dad, and I think has won a few events as well. And I don't know if she steers or crews or both, I suppose. So great stuff. And if you can become the oldest dinghy sailor in the world, you'll have to be 100 or something, I suppose, to beat some of the other guys. Yeah.
Those people you mentioned, Nick Douglas crews for her dad, Rob. They've won numerous world championships, and the McKee brothers have both won world championships individually as well in the class. So they're probably the top 3 in the class's history.
I even sailed a Taser.
I know you did.
Back in the day. My wife, are there a lot of couples that are sailing in the Taser? Is it?
Huge. Yeah, that's probably the strength of the class. It's couples. And the Worlds in Sandringham, we're expecting somewhere north of 120 boats. And wow. I would say that out of 120, 80 to 90 of them would be male-female combinations.
Nice. Okay, what about this next shot?
Yeah, I just plucked that one out to show that I don't only sail dinghies. I've sailed numerous keelboats. That's me in the red hat at the stern steering. And that was a friend's Far 40 that I campaigned for a couple of years and had a lot of fun on. So I just wanted to put that in there to show that I've had a lot of fun with bigger crews as well. I've got a keelboat myself. I've got a 31-foot Archambault, and the keelboat community is a fabulous one as well. Some great regattas coming up here in Australia shortly with Airlie Beach that Jody's going to, and Hamo and Magnetic Race Week, and it's a great scene down here.
Speaking of Jody, Julia, you see that comment?
Yep.
My wife tasers me when I come home late from the boat. What about the boat name? I figured this would come into for some bad jokes and finger wagging from somebody.
Yeah, I didn't name this one Nutcracker, but I did buy a boat in partnership with Robbie, who was the owner of Nutcracker, and we thought long and hard about what we might call our next boat together, and we came up with names like Ball Breaker. But we decided he was the Commodore of the yacht club at the time, so we decided we couldn't really do that.
No. Gosh, no.
Julia, you wouldn't approve. You'd shake your finger
Not
at
for
that.
Sorry,
the
Julia.
Commodore. Not for the Commodore.
Singeray's asking, does Nutcracker involve shucking? And I figured that would get some. How about this one? Yachties or hotties?
Yes, that's a great picture.
Well, this is the other. Cycling is the other great sport in my life. In '98, I started the Tazo Worlds in '98, and I decided with my crew at the time that I needed to get seriously fit for that. So we thought we'd go and buy a couple of bicycles, and the rest is history. I'd have to say that cycling is as big in my life as sailing is, and I've probably ridden 200,000 kilometres since then. I've followed the Tour de France, over there, riding the mountains. I've ridden around the Giro d'Italia. I've ridden around Tasmania a few times. I've ridden from Melbourne to Sydney, from Adelaide to Melbourne. I've done some serious riding, and I absolutely love it. It's a big part of my life, which is why I put it there. And the other reason I put that shot in is that that's my lovely wife Tracy, who rides bikes as well, and it's a big part of my life.
When was the last time, and maybe you said this during our COVID discussion, when was the last time you rode a bike?
4 months ago. I have not been able to ride for 4 months because of my health.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's killing me, I tell you. I've actually got a brand new bike in the garage, Tom, that was delivered 3 months ago that I've never ridden, and that's
that's tempting.
no.
Now, you were the managing director, CEO for a long time of Ron Stan. I guess you're still, aren't you executive chairman or chairman of something? But you must have been very popular with your staff, because is this on your door?
Yeah, well, yes, I'm the major shareholder and non-exec chairman, and it's been a huge part of my life, as you know. Ron and Stan hired me back in 1976, and I ended up buying the company with my management team as part of a management buyout in 1999. I retired it was 6 years ago. I retired. And that was yes. There's a photo coming up of that, but that's the note on my door. I will go if you go back, Tom. So there. Firstly, on the door, the fact that damaging director was on my office door, I think, indicated that I like to bring an element of fun to the whole business, and the beatings will continue until morale improves. Well, that was all a bit of fun, and a lot of people used to comment on my office door, so I thought I'd send you that photo. And then the next photo. It shows you how much they're all going to miss me. That's the day I retired, and you can see how sad everybody is to see me leaving with my cardboard box full of possessions as I left the office for the last time.
When was that?
That was 6 years ago. I actually retired on my 40th anniversary with the company at 60 years of age. And it's now 46 years because I'm still on the payroll as the chairman, and I'm aiming for a nice round symbolic 50. I think that'd be a good one to step out on. But there was actually a good story about my retirement. I don't know if you've told you this before, Tom, but on April Fool's Day, prior to that, I was in the dentist's chair, and my phone was going off. It was buzzing away in my pocket. It just wouldn't stop, and it was quite a long appointment for about 2 or 3 hours, and I thought, I don't know what's going on here, but when I get out of this chair, I need to find out what's going on. And I finished the appointment, and I started to check my messages, and I was inundated with congratulatory messages and goodwill, lots of goodwill being sent in my direction, congratulating me on my career and being somewhat surprised at my retirement. Well, I actually had no idea that I was retiring, and what it was April Fool's Day, and the CEO of our American company, Scott West, who is now the CEO of Ronstan, had hacked into my circulation list of the newsletter that I used to send to everybody, The View from the Head, which you would remember, Tom.
The View from the Head.
The View from the Head, and he had crafted a letter that looked as if it had been written by me, thanking everybody for their friendships and support, and saying what a wonderful time I'd had, but how I inevitably at this time in my life it was time to hand over to the younger people, and announcing my retirement. So I was retired as an April Fool's joke by Scott Weston. Everybody fell for it. And I must say, it was a bit like going to your own funeral. The messages that I had were absolutely brilliant. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And it was such a good idea that I then decided it was probably not a bad idea to retire anyway. And then Scott got the job, so it worked for him.
That's lovely.
You know, if I had a nickel for every piece of Ronstand, you know, every piece of Ronstand gear I had on any of my boats,
Yeah.
fireballs and
Everybody
flying
does, yeah.
Scots, and
Mm-mm.
we all did. We
great.
all did, and then
I
I got to meet Mr. Ron. Sorry, go ahead,
I
Julie.
was just going to say, I didn't know there was a Mr. Ron Stancy.
Well, there was a Ron and a Stan.
I don't understand.
Yep.
And then I met Alistair at the famous METS, the Marine Equipment Trade Show. Is that what METS stands for?
Correct. Yep.
And you told us this story once before about the whole METS, how famously cool the Ronstand bar became in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Yes, I think I have shared this with you before, Tom. That's one of my dearest friends, Louis. He has a bar in Amsterdam, and about 35 years ago, we were looking to have a beer. It might have been International Beer Day, and we walked in off the street, and he was particularly friendly, and we invited a few friends there. And the next year, he remembered our names and greeted us very warmly, and we invited a few more, and it started to become a bit of a party. So about 30 years ago, he handed me the keys to his bar, and he said, "Here, you be the barman. You're the one with all the friends." So I, seriously, for 30 years at the Mets show, every year, it became Ronstand headquarters. I was the head barman. I would pour the beers for everybody, and we'd sing songs and just have the greatest time every night. And we used to pack that place. It became somewhat famous, or infamous perhaps, during the show as being the place to go. And Louis, who's sitting with me there at the front of his bar, used to sign. He'd organise the sign writing. The staff would wear Ronstand shirts, and it became the Ronstand party. It became the place to go. And Louis became such a good friend of mine that, firstly, I proposed to Tracy on his bar during Mets. So it was on her birthday, and we snuck a birthday cake in. We got her up onto the bar, lit the birthday candles, blew them out, and then sang happy birthday. And then I got down on my knee and asked her to marry me.
Oh, lovely.
And on the bar during Mets. And we got married a couple of years later in Thailand, and Louis and his wife came to the wedding from Holland. And now, and ever since, which has probably been the last 7 or 8 years, every time I go to Holland, I stay at his house.
Oh, how nice.
So he's my buddy, and I can't wait to get him down to Australia.
Yeah, speaking of buddies, here's another one of our mutual friends there, at least on the right.
Yeah.
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 That's everybody should recognise that character there, that scoundrel. That's me with my wife Tracy in the middle, and Peter Harkin. And while I was sending you a photograph of a friend, I thought I'd send you a photograph of another friend. One of the great things about our industry, Tom and Julia, is that my friends are my customers, my employees, my colleagues, my suppliers, and my competitors. You know, we've always made a big thing of that. And Peter and I are very close. I was very close with Olaf as well, and I've had a great time with those guys. I visited their factory in Wisconsin. We've closed too many bars to count. I think we've spent too many international beer days together, and that was him with Tracy. I actually went to his house. I stayed at his house last time I was in Wisconsin, and we went toe to toe in the bar. I was determined not to let him beat me, but by about 3 a.m, from a party that was started with about a dozen people, it was down to just Peter and me, and at about 3:30, I finally had to concede, and he won that little contest. So I've had fun at his house. I've had fun with him and Edith, and he's a great friend.
Yeah. He is a mine as well, and known him forever and ever. And Harcooni, as we call him, or Harcoon, and his late great brother. And sadly, or maybe not, maybe happily, I've closed more than a few bars with him too at various American Cups.
Yeah.
Nice photo. Great photo.
Yeah, Harkin's a great company that makes terrific products. But I did have one product of his that I had a bit of a problem with. It was my backstay, my hydraulic backstay adjuster on my keelboat, and it was leaking oil. And I contacted the local Harkin distributor and said they needed to fix it, and they were less than caring in their attitude to me, I thought. So I sent him a letter and I said, tell Peter Harkin that if he doesn't fix this backstay adjuster immediately, I'm going to come to his house and drink all of his grog and run away with his wife. and
he did.
I think the Australian distributor was somewhat shocked by that approach, but the backstay adjuster was fixed the very next day.
Yay.
Okay,
Great
we got
line.
another great picture and a story, I think, about your father.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it was just a selection of photos that I plucked around him, and I thought I'll have to show one of my dear old dad because his name was Alan, and I put that there because he was the one that introduced me to sailing. He a lovely man, and he died 4 or 5 years ago. We moved to a seaside suburb in Melbourne when I was 11, a suburb by the name of Williamstown. And my father took me straight down to the Sea Scouts, and that's where I started sailing, and it's where I got my love of boats. When I was 16, I think we bought our first family boat, which was a 3-man boat called a Corsair. And I was always the helmsman, Tom, because my dad said he always had to sit between my brother and me to keep us apart, to stop us from fighting with each other. So I was the helm right from the beginning, and I've been there ever since. And we had a lot of good times together, my brother and my dad and myself. And I remember I used to sign on, when you used to have to sign on and sign off to sail, and you used to put your crew's name. Well, of course, I'm Alistair, my father was Alan, and my father was Andrew. So it was A. Murray, and A. Murray, when I signed on. But Dad was the one that introduced me to the sport. He wasn't a great sailor himself, but he loved the water. But he introduced me to it, and so I have him to thank for my love of the sport, my love of the recreation, all aspects of sailing, and the job I ended up in, the friends I have. It all came from him introducing me to it back all those years ago.
I wonder if we asked all the Fozy, Julia, how many people were introduced by their family, by their mom or dad or both, to the sport. I would have thought it was almost everybody, but
Not me.
You weren't. You were introduced by friends at the yacht club, I guess.
Yeah.
Had you joined the yacht club before you became a sailor, or were you a sailor and then joined
Oh no,
the yacht club?
I sailed for 16 years before I became a member of the yacht club because ladies didn't join.
Well, that's true, but you were. And it's something. It's a topic we should talk about because we all want to help the sport, keep the sport thriving and surviving.
I love it, Tom. I love it when I meet people who are not from sailing families that have taken up sailing, because I always wonder about their story and how they were attracted to it and how they got into it, because most of us were introduced to it by our parents.
Yes.
And I love it when I meet people that come into it from another angle.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's the same reason I love being here. It's the people involved. I mean, the Fozys are fabulous, and I think there's nobody better than a blue water sailor.
Thierry de Jong saying that he was introduced by his dad. I certainly was. My dad introduced my mom to sailing, and the two of them, my mom's still quite a good sailor, often on here watching. Won a North American national championship with my dad. Stingray saying Alistair's voice is getting progressively stronger. He should be on Sailing Illustrated more often.
That's an invitation.
It's been said about me, Tom, that I could speak underwater with a mouthful of marbles. So.
Well, it's probably true of all of us. You've been recognized in Australia for your significant contributions to our beloved sport. When was this and where?
Thanks, Tom. That was 2017, Order of Australia. I really put that in there not to talk about the Order of Australia, but to show that I was at the celebration with my family, and that's my wife, Tracy, on the left, and my 3 daughters, Claire, Lauren, and Eleanor. So that's really why the photo means so much to me. As I said, this is the life and times of, and I thought I'd just show a photograph of my family, and that's it. But Yeah, very honoured to receive that award for my services to sailing, basically, to sailing and manufacturing and to export. Yeah, it was a big day.
Your comments are bringing in lots of interesting comments. Facebook user who I believe is James Bland down in Austin, Texas. At 14, he says, I decided myself to go sailing. And I think if that is James Bland, he also enlisted in the Navy and was a naval officer here in the U.S. Mary Longpree down in Newport Beach, superb photographer, longtime volunteer for GovCup and for other events at Balboa Yacht Club. She says, my future husband introduced me to sailing back in 1962. Alan Long, my parents were motorboaters. I discovered sailing. You see that, Julia?
Yep.
Chasing women and booze.
He found company. Yeah.
What a beautiful family, Chris Exley is saying.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then we've got one other family member here in this next shot. Two.
I love that picture.
I really put this in for Julia's benefit. I thought she'd love it, but as this was the life and times of it, I thought it's a chance to show you my family, my beautiful family. The favourite member of my family is my granddaughter Amelia, or we call her Millie, and that's her father Hugh carrying her. And I just think it's a great photo. That's all. So
I do too.
She's my favourite person in the whole world.
Yes.
Is that your only grandkid?
My only one. My kids. She's now 6. So I'm looking for my girls to get their act together and produce a few more.
Well, I'm older than you, and I don't have one yet. We don't talk to Meg, Julia, about that. Julia doesn't have any grandkids that you know of, right?
No.
Remember when I started? How it was black over my shoulder?
Yeah.
Hey?
Yeah.
Sun's coming up in Melbourne.
Yeah.
I should be in a position in maybe half an hour to hold the laptop out the window and show you a sunrise.
Well, there's the webcam from downtown. It's a little cloudier downtown, looking to the south. Are you north or south of this webcam?
I live in a suburb called Beaumaris, which is down past Sandringham on the bay side, and it's about a half-hour drive south of that webcam.
Beautiful morning.
Southeast.
Where it's 07:01 on Saturday morning. Down there, Ted Ryman saying, nobody else in my family sails apart from when I took them out. I'm a Pisces and addicted to the sea. He's like, we got to have Ryman on here.
Yes.
I used to play around with, not speaking of guys, you feel like, you know him like a brother after all these months and years.
Yes.
He's almost always on here watching and contributing.
Mm-hmm.
Ted says, I used to play around with a little dinghy on our local lake, which led to bigger boats later on. He's also a motorcyclist. I don't want a pickle, just want to ride my motorcycle. Fritz
That's
Muller.
Arlo Guthrie.
Huh? Arlo Guthrie.
Arlo Guthrie.
At where did he sing that? When did he become famous?
70s?
Woodstock, 69.
60. Okay, Woodstock.
My parents were not sailors, Fritz Muller says, but we started early, and my brother and I taught our mother when we were about 12. She became a good bullseye racer. There's a lot of interesting stories here. Greg Phillips, who's an Australian. I was introduced by my dad when I was a boy in Perth, in WA. He was a sailor as a boy in Albany, in WA as well. Okay, well, that's a great family and some nice shots, Alistair, but we can't let you off the hook yet because now we get to do what is fast becoming my favorite segment. We postponed this pending trying to get pictures and commentary together and decided to do it live. Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote. Alistair, over to you with this first shot. This is about
Thanks, Tom.
Boat names of note.
Yeah, I just thought this might lead to an interesting discussion amongst the FOSI where people could perhaps contribute some of the boat names that they've enjoyed over the years. And I've always, on my boats, put a bit of thought into them. I like playing with words. My mother was an English teacher. I like puns and word plays. And I just thought I'd share with you, I mean, there's nothing particularly brilliant here, but I thought I'd just share with you some of the names of some of the boats that I've had over the years and the stories behind them. So this first one was a Taser called El Capitan, and a couple of things I'd say about that is that you would know El Capitan, the the famous mountain in Yosemite. My boat was Al Capitan, as in AL, which is me, Al, and Capitan, and that image is actually of me. And I'd given the challenge to the Ronstown Art Department to create a bit of a logo for me. And one of the young guys from the art department walked into my office with a tiller extension and said, put this between your teeth and pretend it's a cutlass. So I did that, and they photographed it, and that ended up on the side of my boat. So it's actually me, and the name of the boat is El Capitan, and that's my current Taser.
It's lovely. I
had that same tiller extension in my hand any number of times. I had one on my Flying Scott.
Yeah.
It was a good tiller extension. Maybe still is. Alan Long saying, love the tiller extension on the side of the boat. Back one last comment about learning to sail. Yeah, it is. James Bland down in Texas, he's saying, Tom, yes, it was me at age 14 to go sailing, and he just decided to do it, but I was accepted ultimately subsequently to the Naval Academy, Annapolis, our Naval Academy, and received his Bachelor of Science degree and commissioned as an ensign in the Navy in '78. The commanding officers of my first command made me the maneuvering watch officer of the day for 4 years after he found out I knew something about conning ships and sailing his Catalina. Yeah, I think sailing, it's amazing. I was sitting at the bar late last night at St. Francis Yacht Club after Julia had already done the show preps. and we went over there and had a cocktail, and there were people sitting at the bar who said, oh, you're and I said, I didn't know who they were. And they really didn't know, except they'd seen the show or something. But then they were so interested. We didn't talk about the show or the Foes here, but they started talking about what they were doing. Toronto, Philippines, Navy, the UK, Brits were, just people from literally all walks of life and all over the world. It's great fun, our beloved sport.
Yeah, that bar is a great place to meet people from all over the world.
Alistair, this next one.
Yeah, so this is a boat that I named for a friend. he's and I actually produced a logo for him and stuck it on without him knowing, and he was blown away. He actually, this friend of mine, his name's James Taylor, and it's not Sweet Baby James. It's not the singer, but James is a good friend of mine and partner in my boat, in my keel boat, and he built this rowing skiff himself. And I figured, well, if he built it himself and his name's James Taylor, it's tailor made. So I named his boat without his knowledge. I named it Tailor Made, MAID, and I produced a logo and gave it to him, and he absolutely loves it.
What kind of boat is it?
It's like a 15-foot timber rowing skiff.
Looks like a rowboat, not necessarily a sailboat.
It's not a sailboat.
He said it was.
Not a sailboat.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah. I'm switching here and reading comments, so I sometimes miss some of these cool comments. Mary Longpree, in my photographing career, I have developed a large collection of fun boat names. My favorite, Sailbad the Center. My dad used to write a column for one of the classes. He was like James Bland. He was the secretary of a class or two, and sent the newsletters out and the mailings and kept everybody organized. And he wrote a column called Sailbad the Center. And
that's a great name.
We had a lawyer in this country named F. Lee Bailey.
Yeah.
F. Lee Bailey, and I think he died a few years ago, and he was one of these celebrity lawyers and defense attorney types.
Yeah.
And was also a bit of a sailor. Boater. Yeah, he lived ultimately down in Florida. My dad also wrote a column called F. Lured Baylor. It was about the rules. It was a rules column. Okay.
We had a boat, a very well-known boat in Melbourne. It was owned in partnership. This is true. Owned in partnership by a psychiatrist and a blind man. Now, you think I'm making this up, but that was the partnership that owned it. And it was called Out of Sight, Out of Mind.
Oh, lovely. Perfect.
It's getting brighter there.
Yep.
Looking nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In Melbourne. Okay. A few more here.
Okay, this is my keel boat, and the story behind this name. It's once again a play on words. The boat was, there's a number of connections here. The boat was built in France. It's an Archambault, and so it's a tribute to its heritage. And the arch is obviously would have been Arc, but the arch is a tribute to its name and a play on that. It's owned by three of us. We're a trio and Triumph, and we're out there to win. So it's kind of it works on a number of fronts. And that's a pretty well-known boat around Sandringham now, and won the club championship a number of times, and we love it.
It's a great name.
Now,
okay, this one is another Taser. This was one that Tracy and I sailed together, even though that's not Tracy in the photo. And because it was the two of us, we put our two names together, and it's Trace Element. So once again, a play on words. Trace Element was that particular boat.
Mm-hmm.
and then this one.
This was another Taser that I sailed with my daughter, and her name is Claire, Clare, and I called the boat Clairvoyant. And this year, there's the two of us together. Many years ago, that particular shot was taken during the Worlds in Darwin, and I had a decade of sailing with my daughter and loved every minute of it.
Beautiful. And speaking of funnies, this from Ron Stan. I had to put this in.
Yeah, so I don't know if this one would translate to you, but so my one of my identities in life is Pop, which is a grandfather in Australia, and my granddaughter calls me Pop, and there's a well-known well, we have cornflakes, so now they have those in America, and Snap Crackle Pop was the slogan of the cornflakes. I don't know if that was the marketing slogan in America as well.
Well, it wasn't cornflakes. It was Rice
Krispies.
Rice Krispies.
Ah,
Snap, Crackle, Pop. And because they were little rice kind of...
Gee, you know, I might be wrong. It might have been rice bubbles here.
Yeah, I think, I don't know what it was there, but for sure in the U.S. it was Rice Krispies, right, Julia?
Right. Yeah, so
Snap, Crackle, Pop. Yeah.
So once again, I gave the challenge with my sort of tie-in with blocks and cleats and turnbuckles and snap shackles. I gave the challenge to my marketing department. They came up with that logo, and that's my new boat, my power boat, and it's called Snap Shackle Pop. And my granddaughter loves it.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a cool thing, and I figured it was a play on words with Rice Krispies. Now, Des Stallard.
No, you're right.
Des Stallard's a name I don't recognize right off the bat, but welcome, Des. He or she could be a Desiree, I guess, could be a man or a woman, but Des is saying it was rice bubbles.
Yeah.
Is that what you call them in Oz?
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't see that screen. That's from Des, is it?
Yeah, Des Stallard, it was rice bubbles. It's right down on the bottom. It's lost in the bottom of your...
He's absolutely right. And I'm right. It wasn't cornflakes, it was rice bubbles, which are your Rice Krispies. And Des Stallard, by the way, is a dear friend of mine. He hopefully he'll tune into your show on a regular basis. His name is Derek Alistair Stallard, and his parents gave him his middle name was named after me. So there you go.
Oh, good.
A young friend. He's about 25 years younger than I am, so he was the next generation following his and my parents' generation.
Nice.
Great guy.
Ted Ryman is saying his Atlanta Catch 22 sloop was called Passing Wind. Used to get a lot of laughs at Cows Week. I can see this is going to be a popular segment. Chris actually saying there's a dermatologist in Nashville who has two S2 7.9s, itch and scratch. Alan Long, he had a Trip 26 called Babes and Sticky Back. And gosh, it goes on and on and on. About how people started sailing. Saying my fin, Fritz Mueller saying my fin was named Peaches in Regalia. That's a Frank Zappa album, yeah, and on and on and on. Great stuff, Alistair. Can you stay with us?
So, yeah, well, I just thought I'd finish with three quick ones, which I didn't have photos of, but I was reminded of it when doing this segment that many years ago, Australian Sailing Magazine ran a competition for long boat names. It was a bit of a thing about maybe 30 years ago, and I love the last one, which I'll give you, but a couple I mentioned before it. There was a very well-known ocean racer out in New Zealand called Waikikamucow.
What? They were called what?
Waikikamucow. Yeah.
Everybody thought it was like a New Zealand place name, but it was Waikikamucow. a moo cow. And it was just
Yeah.
Waikiki moo cow. And that was a very well-known boat name. There was another one in this long boat name competition called, the boat was called A Pizza Without Cheese is Like a Woman Without Knees. And that was the name of the boat. And it went down this crazy path where all these silly names were being put forward. And the one that won the competition, which was absolutely my favourite, and I'll finish up on this as the boat name competition and look forward to other people's comments as well. But the boat was called Why Give It a Name If It Won't Come When You Call It. That was the name of the boat.
Oh, that's lovely.
Bodie McBoatface. Yeah, there's another one. There's a lot of fun names. We'll have to get into these now, Alistair. You got to turn your shot now away from that window because we're starting to lose your auto. There we go. It'll brighten up much better. And I can always go to the webcam. I like this webcam. We had that webcam a few shows ago on Paris, on the Eiffel Tower, and I think we'll start introducing more of these webcams as we go. And then Mary Longpree saying that she's got a photo apparently of a boat whose name was "Did You Bring a Beer Along?" Speaking of, yeah, she said she saw that's an Australian boat name,
Hamilton Island.
Yeah, from Hamo. So cool stuff. Well, it's we're just about an hour and 15 into the show, and we've got Alistair Murray with us. If you're just joining us, he by now I've known him for a long, long time. I haven't seen him in person since way before the pandemic, but delighted to have you on, Alistair. It's really a pleasure. A woman without knees, Reyes saying. Let's one other topic, and it'll be interesting to hear your comments on it as we get into this subject, which is, first of all, bravo Zulu to Australia, because your country is doing very well in Julie, you know what's going on Olympic-wise? It's not the Olympic Games, but it's close. It's called the Commonwealth Games that are taking place in Birmingham in the West Midlands of the UK. And, you know, we like to show people where places are if they don't know where Birmingham is. The 2022 Commonwealth Games are going on in Bravo Zulu, Alistair, because Australia is at the top of the medal count. 50 gold, 42 silver, and 41 bronze, and I think there's still a few days left. Way more medals than England, and almost 100 more than Canada, New Zealand, Scotland, South Africa, and so on. So your country doing very well indeed. And I have a question for you, sir, because not only is Australia doing well, and no surprise, England second, but when I looked further into this after I saw the medal count come across, or the Commonwealth Games story came across one of my news feeds this morning, I looked at all these countries, and there's 72 countries, I think I counted, in the Commonwealth Games. And I was shocked, frankly, that in the Commonwealth Games, there is no sailing. Why is there no sailing? And let me just go a step further here, because I looked at the Asian Games, which are coming up in China, and I think they're later this year, but the Asian Games will feature 37 sports, including the 28 mandatory Olympic sports to be contested in the 2024 Summer Olympics. So not only the 28 normal or regular Olympic sports, but then another, 9 sports at the Asian Games, including, therefore, sailing. And then in our Western Hemisphere Games, known as the Pan American Games in Santiago next summer, they're winter, I guess. But sailing has been a sport in the Pan Am Games since the inaugural 1951 Pan Am Games, being contested in every edition except for 1955, when wherever they were, they didn't have any water nearby. Or so I am reliably informed by reading all that on Wikipedia today. So I was just surprised that there is no sailing in the Commonwealth Games with all those countries, especially a lot of yachting sailing nations and island nations. And I was also surprised to see that in the Pan Am Games, look at the most successful country here in the Western Hemisphere in the Pan Am Games.
Yes.
It's Brazil. With 39 golds. Okay, U.S. has got a few more medals, 88 versus 85. But let's get back to the question. Alistair, why is there no sailing in the Commonwealth Games?
Good question. I'll come back to it. There's something else I'd just like to address. As I mentioned, Tom, you just on that medal count, it's going to end up desperately close between Australia and England by the end of these games, because we took an early lead because Australia is so strong in the pool, and all of the swimming events have been held, and now it's more athletics, and I think that medal race is going to end up desperately close. But we love the Commonwealth Games compared to the Olympics, because in the Olympics it's Great Britain, whereas in the Commonwealth Games it's England. It's England and it's Wales and it's Scotland all separated. So we have a better chance of. We love. I know we've got a few English listeners here, and John Emmett and others, but and Andrew McIrvine and Andrew Pinder. We love beating the Poms at anything. I mean, it's more important than anything to us, and so we're looking forward to hopefully winning these particular Commonwealth Games. We'll be desperately close by the finish. On your question, Tom. Yes, I have no idea why sailing isn't in the Commonwealth Games, but we do have an agenda to get it included.
Oh, really?
We think it should be. For your information, the CEO of Australian Sailing is a man with a good American name. His name is Ben Houston. So you think like that, and he is also the president of Australia's Commonwealth Games Federation. So he, this is an agenda we have. We've already commenced it at Australian Sailing. We are pioneering this argument, this discussion, and we would like to see sailing included in the future.
Good. That's great news.
It's interesting, Tom. I went to, I had a consultation at a physio the other day, looking at some of the issues that I got, and I had to fill in a form that talked about what sports I played, and it listed the sports, and it had netball, golf, cricket, archery. It went on and on and on and on. And I had to tick the box of my favourite sport or my preferred sport. And out of a list of 20, sailing wasn't even on it. Mm-hmm. And I said to the person that was giving me the survey, I said, don't you know that sailing is Australia's second most successful sport at the Olympics and even internationally in other events? I said, it's quite incredible that we do so well at sailing as a country, and yet it doesn't feature on the radar of so many people.
Well, to say nothing of having ended the longest winning streak in sports in 1983. Yeah. But that is weird. Well, there's another thing to get people. You see that. I mean, you rarely see, Julia, you rarely see sailing mentioned as one of the most popular sports, yeah, or as one of the recreational sports that people, and the truth is not very many people participate in it. But was cycling on that list?
Oh, yes, cycling was. So back to your question, Tom. Yes, we want sailing to be a mainstream sport. We want it to be popular, and we want it to be included in the Commonwealth Games.
Good.
And we will be working towards that.
Good. Okay, well, let's keep pressing on. We're an hour and 20 in. Got some more show to go, and my favorite segment is next. It's brief, and I'll ask you both what happened on this day in 1858, so just 7 years after what I call AC0, and 12 years before AC1, the 1870 match, the 5th of August, 1858, and here's your first clue.
Come on, Julia, I'm depending on you here.
I know.
That's a really big help, isn't it?
Yeah.
Huh? Who is that, Julia?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, here's his name, William Thompson. He was born in Ireland, emigrated to Great Britain. Does that help? 1804, he lived a full, long life. 1804 to 1907. Look at that. 103 years.
Wow.
In that era.
Yes.
Okay.
He must have been a doctor.
No, he wasn't, actually. He was an engineer and a designer and a scientist. William Thompson was one of the foremost, I'd never heard of him, and engineers of his age. Born in Belfast, Thompson studied at Cambridge before becoming a professor at Glasgow University, where he remained for 50 years. Mm-hmm. As an academic, he published more than 600 scientific papers. His most famous where he proposed an absolute scale of temperature we now call the Kelvin scale.
Oh, amazing.
Now, do you know why it's called the Kelvin and not the Thomson scale?
No.
Because he was the first Baron of Kelvin.
Aha.
I mean, you have to learn these things. I didn't know any of this. And Jonathan Frank is asking, was he the inventor of the Prairie Schooner? No, I don't think so. Thomson became famous to the public through his involvement in laying of the transatlantic telegraph cable in the 1850s. Remember, this was going on. We've talked about this before.
Right.
In the 1850s and 60s, during, as the America's Cup was getting underway, and for his inventions, including the Kelvin compass. I don't know what that is. I should have looked that up. Somebody on here, one of ours, Lord Kelvin, right? Thanks, Fritz Muller. Including the Kelvin compass and a sounding machine. This guy was quite nautical.
Mm-hmm.
In 1866, he was knighted by Queen Victoria and created the first Baron Kelvin of Largs, Scotland, I assume, 1892. Yes, here, TFE Live University, who knew? Well, this is what we like to do on here.
Yes.
Now, so on this date, they completed the first laying of the first transatlantic cable from, I don't know, someplace in the Land's End, maybe, in the UK, over to Newfoundland.
Mm-hmm.
The cable only worked for 4 days. But he did it.
He did it.
He did it. So that's the historic event, 1858. On this date, the first transatlantic telegraph cable lands at Trinity Bay in Newfoundland, spearheaded by Cyrus West Field, but it'll fail 3 weeks, not 3 days. Sorry, 3 weeks. But Mr. Thomson apparently was the brains behind that operation. Yeah.
Well, it was important.
Well, it was indeed. And, at first, if you don't succeed, you try again. And Jonathan Frank saying, replying to Peter D. Taylor, dreading the final exams. No final exams here. We just had some fun.
Well, don't say that. Then people forget about it.
This day in history.
Yes.
First transatlantic cable. And now let's, speaking of the UK, let's go to Plymouth. When I want to talk about this again. We told you on Tuesday's show about we revisited the Sail GP in Plymouth, the Great Britain Sail GP. We told you who the 3 boats were that were on the podium, ultimately won by the Kiwis, their first win of a Sail GP event. So bravo Zulu to Pete Burling, Blair Tuke and Co. for their win in Plymouth. And then there was this famous incident between the Brits and Tommy Slingsby, a protest. And Ben Ainslie has dismissed this last minute, we told you this, the last minute dramatic penalty handed to Great Britain, which cut the home team out of the final. He called it a bad call. The Brits were just 200 meters from the finish line and ahead of Tom Slingsby's Australia when they were handed the devastating penalty, which forced them to cross the line behind the Aussies, the finish line behind the Aussies. The decision administered by Chief Umpire Craig Mitchell meant Great Britain missed out on a place in the final, which was handed to Nikolai Sehested's Denmark instead. We showed you this video on Tuesday.
Last time. He needs to cross clear ahead of the Australians to hope
Brits
to make the
port
final.
tack,
It's tight. It's
downwind.
really, really tight.
Tommy Slingsby on starboard.
Great Britain just gets past.
This is the umpire's penalty GBR.
You can tell how unbiased the commentators are.
Oh, he's got to drop behind. Oh, he's got to drop behind.
So we showed you that video and then some screen grabs that I did showing the differences in the speed on the, as Jonathan Frank might say, on the final approach. I mean, look at, there's a 11 kilometer per hour speed difference as Tommy's coming in on starboard tack there in the green sailed boat. The wind's blowing this way, left to right, as you can see with the arrows. Nice graphics. And this is Tom Slingsby. This is Ben Ainslie on port tack. Port tack, of course, as you all know, has to keep clear of starboard tack. They get closer. You can see the trail of Tom Slingsby. And Ben called this a Hollywood move, but it wasn't a Hollywood move. Had they not altered course to windward to keep clear of Ben's transom back here, there could have well and truly been a horrific prang. And this was the shot, another screen grab I took and showed you on Tuesday, because here you can see all the spray, all the water coming off the port dagger foil and the port rudder, because the rudder's turned and the side force now, there's a lot of spray, a lot of drag, because Tom is turning the boat up to miss the transom of that boat. And I asked all of you what you thought. And there was almost unanimity, starting with Jody Shields, who, of course, did the commentary last year for a good bit of it for Sail GP, and a lot of others of you on here. I always thought about doing today a mock hearing, but I didn't want to beat the dead horse any more than probably we already are. But this was so obvious to most of you that that was a clear infringement by Ben Ainslie trying to cross. And frankly, he had to try to cross, because if he didn't cross, he probably was going to get beaten and not end up in the top 3 anyway. So I don't blame him for trying to do it. But wait, there's more, because now the umpires have produced what is called the ghost boat. This is what the umpires see, saying if the boats continued, this is the so-called ghost, I don't know what they call it, algorithm, but you can see Tom Slingsby in the green boat coming in now from the top upper right-hand corner on starboard tack, and this computer projection that the umpires see is what would have happened if neither boat altered course. And he would have, Slingsby, according to the computer at least, would have chopped off the rear quarter, in both senses of the word quarter, of that boat.
Speed making some difference in that.
And now you can also see the speed, at least the starting speed, as they're getting closer. So that's a screen grab of whatever position. Now here is a photo they also released at the time that Tom altered course. And he's, you can see from this photo, he's darn close to when he's starting to turn to miss the transom of Sir Ben. So I offer that all up as further evidence, because, gang, I don't know how you see it, Alistair, or Julia, you talked about it last week, but frankly, I got a lot of hate mail. Not a lot. I got some hate mail. Some of you who are big Sir Ben fans wrote to me and said, oh, you're biased and you're always supporting Tom Slingsby because he was with you in the 2013 Cup, and or his name's Tom, or
of course.
Excuse me. I mean,
Well,
Alistair.
Well, I think it was a bad call to call it a bad call. Yeah, I think he should have not said anything. But well, it's clear what's happened is that he should have crossed him and was about to. But we've all been in that situation where you think you're going to cross somebody, but you slow down and they speed up, and all of a sudden it's not looking so good. And that's clearly what happened to him. He thought he was going to get across him, but he was going slower than Slingsby, and Slingsby was coming at him hard with all the rights, and had to make a last-minute change of course to avoid him. So clear cut to me.
Yeah, I agree, and I think most of our FOSI the other day agree. Let's go back and look at the comments. Jody said he has a horrible start in that race and made a bad call on a port starboard incident, yet it's the umpire's fault he didn't make the final. Really, are we still buying this? No, we're not. Jody was the first one to say it was quite a good and clear call, and I waited till what everybody else said. The wakes tell the tale. Fritz Mueller is saying, yep, so does J. Frederick Bland. Simple port and starboard stop winching. Thanks, Greg Phillips. Yeah, Greg, Ben is under a lot of pressure to win in Great Britain as the home team. Ed Worley is saying, yeah, these are, will the ghost boat call, Ed Worley, will the ghost boat call on Ben? Mark Husted. Hi, Mark. Nice to see you on. And Mark is really, he communicated with me some DMs after the racing last weekend, and he's saying, to be honest, I'm much more disappointed with Jimmy Spithill's decision of his flight control. There's been a bit of a controversy about that. And, people don't want us to be critical in the media or for fans to be critical, but they clearly have a problem with the flight control on Jimmy Spithill's boat. You got to look at who's the flight controller. Hans Henkel, and they have to make a change. And just like any other sport, if it's football or soccer or rugby or hockey or whatever it is, and we think somebody's not performing or the coach is a crouton, we call them out, and we got to start doing the same in our sport, right? Right, Alistair?
That's life.
Professional sport. Stingray saying Ben A claims that because he was accelerating, the ghost boat projection was not accurate, but it turns out he was not accelerating much, and Oz was also accelerating. So,
yeah. That's the trouble with all the electronics. You have great moment.
But all in all, it's pretty good. Ted Ryman's right too. It's a cartoon. I would like to see the overhead footage, and sadly, Alistair, they cut away at the moment. They went down to that onboard shot just when you really wanted to stay on the overhead to see how much and when Tommy Slingsby had to alter course, or if in fact he did, but it's pretty clear. Julie Aarons, thank you, Julie. Blind Freddie could see that Ben should have gotten his boat out of the way. Well, again, I think he probably did the right thing. He knew this is, I got to cross, I got to force the decision.
Yeah.
And if either I make it or if the umpires, let me off the hook, then I'm maybe going to win or finish far enough ahead to then get into the final three boats. So
exactly.
Ed Worley.
He did the right thing.
Yeah.
He did the right thing, but he just didn't quite make it.
Yeah. Julia?
Oh, Ed Worley says, with this class of boats, a lot of classic maneuvers to defend your lead is not viable.
Well, yeah, and of course these are pros, and these guys are really good. They're not going to crash the boat, so I think Ben knew that as well. Okay, I as I said, that's beating the dead horse here a bit, but I did just, since some of you, I got some pretty harsh, not it wasn't personal, but some pretty harsh reactions to our segment here
For not being a fanboy.
on the show for apparently being a fanboy of Slingsby. I could care less if Tom wins or loses, or Ben wins or loses, or anybody else.
One last
There it
time.
is,
He
one
needs
last
to
time.
cross clear ahead.
And I promise
The
not to
Australians
ever
hope they
talk
make
about
the
this
final.
again,
It's
at least
tight.
not till
It's
Tuesday.
really, really tight.
They shouldn't have cut to that shot. I agree, Tom. And that's how bad the commentators are, is they think that he cleared, that he was ahead, and now how disappointed they were with the penalty. Excuse me. Stingray saying the overhead suggests that Ben was not making the mark even. Yeah, he wasn't probably laying it, so. Yeah, no, and Julie Aarons, no, that wasn't coming from you, and I haven't named who they came from, and I wouldn't anyway, so that's it for that, except I do want to say that there are so we told you the standings going forward, and Ben's still in second place, only 5 points out of first. He's still very much in the hunt in the season championship as of last Sunday at the end of the racing. Now here, I should do a bit of setup for this. This is a really cool video about the Spanish team. We're not doing really well, but I love this kid, and I think I'm going to start that over. I do a bit of setup. It's a great video. And bravo Zulu to the Spanish team and the SailGP for releasing this video.
Ha sido un primer día que seguro que no olvidaremos en la vida, ¿no? El primer día que uno pues, se sube por primera vez a una C45 y la verdad es que no nos hemos sacado la sonrisa de la cara en todo el día, seguro que no nos la sacamos en toda la semana. Y estar aquí en Bermudas, navegando con el AC45 y que de repente pues, te cruza la popa el Artemis del 50 ya, con todos los grinders ahí, todos con el pinganillo, y dices, ostras, la verdad es que también nos hemos cruzado con muchos de los equipos absolutos y es imposible, ¿no? Mirarlos y decir, pues a ver si un día podemos ser alguno de ellos.
Can you tell us what this moment feels like for you?
As a sailor, it's the moment you always been dreaming for, no? Not so time ago, we were running behind these guys, asking for pictures in Bermuda, and now we are here, sitting next to them, and yes, it's a huge opportunity for us. We know it's the opportunity of our life, and we want to beat these guys, no? To be honest, obviously we know, to be realistic, it's that we are far, but we want to beat the Three Kings.
Es muy difícil, Nico, pero Jordi va a hacer todo lo posible por meter ahí el barco.
España primera en la salida, aunque Japón tiene un poquito de velocidad. Muy bien Jordi Chamar, su tarjeta de presentación.
Giro rápido, dale.
Ahí pasa España en segunda posición. Bravo Jordi, bravo chavales, bravo chavales.
Cuidado, tío. Buena tú. Buena, tío.
¡Vamos!
So there's kids obviously all over the world watching this. What do you think, Alistair?
Brilliant young people, and all power to them. Always love to see the underdog do well, and you love seeing young people aspire to better things in sailing and to be achieving what they really dreamt about.
Yeah, and that one comment he said, here we were in Bermuda chasing after to get selfies, get pictures or autographs, and now I'm on the press conference stage with them, and
fantastic.
It is fantastic stuff, and I thought that was a terrific and inspirational video in any language.
I love the irrepressible smiles.
Exactly. Jordi Chamar, I don't know him well. I've met him once or twice, but he's obviously a really, really nice, bright kid, like so many of these. Thanks, Tom and Julie. Alistair, for a great show. Got to go. Bye, Fritz. And then, okay, I'm not going to. That's Stingray's comment. You got to go back and read the comments. Would like to understand, Jonathan Frank asking, why Team USA destroyed a winning team. Are they following the strategy of the Dallas Cowboy football team, American Gridiron team? Jonathan Frank, who of course is from Texas. Julie Aarons, I'm a big fan of Ben's, but his press has gone to his head. He is great, but not the permanent owner of the best. Good point. Yeah, it is astounding. Peter Taylor, a lot of people are wondering why, what's going on with Team USA, but everybody agreeing, including Jonathan Frank, that their passion is infective. And your friend Des Stallard, Alistair, is saying that's what sailing's about, the joy on his face.
Yes, absolutely.
Just what you
Totally
said.
agree.
Okay.
Well,
Des.
that Des is so right. And that is the Rockwell, Denmark poster really coming up. It's on the website now of SailGP, and the next event is just in 2 weeks' time, 19th and 20th of August in Copenhagen, and we're looking forward to that. And now we will press on here for another of my favorite segments, featuring the aforementioned any number of times Jody Shields, who is probably enjoying his Saturday morning down in Wanji in Oz. Is it correct or croutonic? And I got to do a bit of a setup for this one, too, because first we have a video also from SailGP, and we're talking now about all the camera angles and specifically the GoPro cameras that they're using. And they produced a nice video about the Plymouth event from the perspective of the GoPro camera, the little not adventure cameras, but what's the proper word? Sport cameras, or there's a better word than that. But have a look at this video, and then we're going to show you another video from Plymouth with a drone. I'm not going to talk about it more than that for right now, but just astonishing camera work. But is it really correct, or is it croutonic in terms of portraying the sport, promoting the sport? You decide. Have a look.
Okay, 13, 19, and 33.
This is the GoPro video first. I don't recognize the music. I hope it's rights free. Does anybody recognize that as mainstream music? I'll turn it down or off if it is. Stingray, do you know? Rick Rundle, hi Rick. I'm going to turn it down. You just get an idea what the video's about. In case that is not rights free music, I don't want to take a copyright strike. But again, it's shot on GoPros, and they've assimilated all the shots, the video. And I think, for one, I like it. I like that they produced a video a few days afterwards. That is good stuff that David Morris is saying. I don't know that's going to attract more people to the sport, but it may attract more people to watching SailGP. There's some comments here about who the U.S. ought to get onto the boat. But you get the idea. This you can go watch a replay of the whole weekend. They've got all the races up. Haven't done a short version yet. But is this correct or croutonic? It's very creative, Jonathan Frank agrees, and he is a creative person besides being a United Airlines pilot. What's that music sound like? Yeah, it's kind of choppy cuts, but that's the MTV-esque style for the last 20-plus years by now. And again, I wish they'd improve their commentators and put Jody back on the job, because the commentary is just croutonic. Okay, enough of all that. You get the idea. And go have a look. It's kind of cool stuff, I think. Is it going to attract people to the sport? Is it going to get more people watching? They don't have great viewer numbers. And I think most of the people who watch are people like you on this show who are long time, if not lifelong sailors and racing sailors and from the traditional world. And thank God Larry's spending the money and Russell's creativity is making this all happen, because we've had nothing like it in the sport ever. I mean, this is 10 professional teams. And it's nice, Richard Morris is saying that the creative video folks have a role to play. Julie Aaron's saying, I like the GoPro camera. Hi, Joe Holtzman. Thank you for your kind comments. So good stuff. Now, let me go back to, that is not a GoPro. Well, maybe it is a GoPro, but there's a guy this kid is, I don't know, 26, 7 years old, and his name is Johnny something. He's from Winnetka, Illinois. And he is supposedly one of the leading, this is actually a gaming competition too, and he's one of the leading drone flyers, but it's not just flying a drone and looking at your iPhone to see what the scenery is. It's immersive first-person view with goggles, with AI goggles on, and specifically this FP, and he calls himself Johnny FPV. An FPV drone is an unmanned aerial vehicle, a UAV, of course, with a camera that wirelessly transmits video feed to goggles, a headset, a mobile device, or other display. But the user has a first-person view of the environment where the drone flies and may capture video or stills images. And we've used a drone down at GovCup. A lot of us have been using drones for various things, and a lot of sailing coverage now, thank God for drones, because without helicopters, you can go out there and cover the sport. But watch this footage from Chicago, from this Johnny FPV, whom they hired to come give this first-person view of SailGP Chicago a few weeks ago.
These are called FPV drones. So there's no gimbal on them. We're just hard mounting the camera. Gives quite a free, as if you were flying like a bird feeling. And then I put a headset on, pilot from the point of view of the camera on board. So we're putting the red Komodo on right now, which is a pretty nice camera. It shoots in 6K, which is great. So we could do a lot of cool tricks in editing. Try and perhaps go under the boats, maybe with the GoPro, we'll see. A couple flights on the Komodo, got some hopefully nice beauty shots, and then took out the GoPro to do the first under the boat shot to get a feel for it. Worked out pretty well. I'm feeling good about that, and the shot looked amazing. I think that's a lot more intimate, aggressive, and fun than the traditional beauty shots, so we might do a couple more under the boat shots here. Today, the first thing we're trying to do is a big pass on Navy Pier, where 4 boats at once scrape by really closely. Flight time is super limited, so we have to be quite precise and tactical with how we utilize it, and then just pick up as much as we can and safely make it back before we run out of battery. I was able to get pretty aggressive during the actual races. We got some really cool stuff. Gonna go decompress, review the footage, and start piecing together a little edit from our adventure. Yeah, copy. Look how they dress, looking at them. Would it be worthwhile to just sit down? Show your face, you're the party girl. Show your face, you're the party girl. Oh.
Okay, what do you think of that?
I think that's brilliant. It's showing us angles that we would never see otherwise. I think when it flew under the boat, that was something. Was something special. And I must say, I preferred the music in the second clip to the first one.
We're an hour and 45 in. If you're just joining us, we're with Alistair Murray. He's our special guest today. We've done Life and Times. We've done Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote, and Julie and I are so enjoying having you on here. What's the rest of the gang think? Is this stuff great? Should this be incorporated into live television? Is it correct, or is it croutonic? What do you think? Peter Taylor, what I like with everyone playing with these tools is that it makes sailing more intimate, less offshore, distant, and I think that's a good thing. These were damn near sensory, yeah, David Morris, damn near sensory overload. Good point. Jonathan Frank, Barbara loves it, but said it would make our Lancer, would not make our Lancer any cooler. Oh, would make our Lancer. I don't know. Jonathan, you have to clarify. David Morris, videos like these will create a broader appeal. You think so? So you think they're correct? Chris Exley says, yes, they're correct. Tier DeYoung liked Johnny's video best. Great content. Chris Exley again agrees. Well, gang, I think most everybody likes it. I'm not sure it's going to attract many more people to the sport because you see it in everything now. But I suppose if you don't see it in our sport, people think that we're backwards or we're Neanderthals or we're technologically cretonic.
The question is, do you use that for all the video or do you use it selectively?
Yeah.
Within a video.
Yeah. What do you think, Alistair?
Look, I just think these advances are presenting sailing in ways that we were never able to see, and whether it promotes the sport or not, I mean, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Let's get as much sailing imagery as we can out there, and the more creative it can be, the better.
I think that's an excellent comment.
Absolutely.
Julie. What do you think?
I agree. Absolutely. Yeah.
You notice I cut to you just as you were getting your cup up to your mug.
It's a little
your mug up to your mouth.
Yeah, it's a little PR.
I haven't even had a coffee yet. It's killing me.
Oh gosh, here, have a sip.
Where's Tracy? Jody Shields, it makes me all warm and fuzzy. Jonathan Frank says it makes it look cooler, or makes it look faster rather, but not any cooler. Orange Chaucer's got to run. He's down there in Brisbane. Where is Brisbane on your time, Alistair?
Yes.
Same time zone. So it's
not during summer, but during winter it is.
Do you guys have half-hour time zones down there too, like Russia?
We have a town in a town called Eucla. It's it's between. I don't know if it's in Western Australia or South Australia, between them, but I think it's West Australian town. That has its own time zone, which is 15 minutes different to the one next to it. So you drive into the town and you sit down in a restaurant and you look at the clock and you go, that clock can't be right. And it's 15 minutes. They can't adjust their living to be in line with the town that's 15. That's so close to them. We have about 6 time zones in Australia. It's crazy, and so much of Australia that won't go to daylight saving when they absolutely should.
Well, I'm a big fan, as most of the FOSI know, of I don't care if we are on daylight time or if we stay on standard time, but I don't like the change. I don't like the switching back and forth. I can adjust my schedule when I get up, when I go sailing, when we start yacht races, when the sun's out and when it's not, without the clock going forward or back. I think that's an anachronism. But to have 15 minutes, and we have some states where half of the state goes on daylight time.
Yeah.
And Indiana of note, but okay, we don't need to beat that one. Ted Ryman saying, I felt like Superman flying around the boats. Excellent. Rick Rundle, how is the trickle down for my starboating? It maybe helps my property value. Don't show the mayor. NASCAR coming to Chicago. I was holding out for Grand Prix. Jonathan for F1. Jonathan Frank could make for an awesome drone pilot. I bet you he could. That's a good point. We'll have to get Jonathan Frank to the Governor's Cup and help pilot our drones.
Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah.
That would be fun. Any other comments? He is already, but he's a 77 is a big drone. We have a town called Euclid. Alan Long is saying, no matter what the time, you stay in your car. Okay. We got a little America's Cup segment here. You can see on the screen. I'm going to go to that now. And Grant Dalton, AC37 Cup Day. A lot of interest in their land speed record attempt. And here's the latest from them from a press release just this morning. And they're now, I commend this newsletter to you. You can subscribe to it, whether you're media or not. I get it, I guess, as a member of the media, although I'm not sure I'm on anybody's Christmas card list down there with the team. But Horonuku has landed, was the headline today, the 5th. It's the 6th down there now, but Horonuku has arrived safely in Australia, clearing customs this week in Adelaide after its journey via sea from Auckland over the past month or so. As sure as the sun rises each day, land speed pilot Glenn Ashby was there to meet the containers loaded with every conceivable item required for an Outback world record wind-powered land speed attempt, as well as Horonuku itself. Here's a video.
Just here at the freight depot at the moment where the containers have arrived in Adelaide from Auckland. We will basically have to de-van both containers so that the quarantine and customs inspectors can come and have a good walk through the container and inspect everything. I don't see us having any major issues, but you never know with quarantine and customs what they may and may not sort of find. I'll just unscrew it, mate.
It's so hard, mate. Sometimes they might be like, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, that's like turn around and go, no, I will look in that cupboard.
Yeah.
You haven't provided adequate space, it's a bit of a gamble.
For the sake of 10 minutes. Extremely pleased that it's got here in one piece and pretty exciting to have it here on Australian soil. Hopefully we pass the quarantine inspection in good shape. Fingers crossed that we get the tick of approval. We've just had the biosecurity check on those containers. We've pulled everything out. They've gone through everything. Fortunately, we've been given the thumbs up that everything's A-OK with that. So that's really fantastic news for the program. Now it's time to load everything back into those containers and get them all strapped down again, and we'll basically be looking at trucking those containers to get set up at Lake Edna really, really soon. So fantastic news for the program.
Nice video, eh?
Mm-hmm.
You like that? Yep. Alistair, you like that?
Look, I've got to take this opportunity, Tom, to tell you what a fantastic bloke Glenn Ashby is.
Exactly.
He's one of my best friends, and he's humble, friendly, considerate, warm guy, modest, you know, for a guy that's incredibly talented. He's just a fantastic guy, and I'd love to see him succeed. I remember I visited him during one of the America's Cups in San Francisco, and he's from a little town called Bendigo, or a city called Bendigo, and it's got a little lake that he sails on, and his dad was just standing by the waterfront looking out across San Francisco Bay, and it was blowing pretty hard. And I just walked up next to him. He didn't even know I was there. And I looked out across him, and I was just another guy standing next to him. And I said, gee, it doesn't blow like this in Bendigo, does it? And it was a big double take. He couldn't believe that somebody had said that to him in San Francisco, and turned around, and it was his old mate, Alistair. So, yeah, the Ashby family, wonderful people.
They are indeed. I've known Glenn. I've known him for years too, like a lot of the Cup sailors, and he is always a gentleman. Jody is suggesting that the Sail GP needs a weekly panel-type show to keep discussing the moments from the past events and speculate about the upcoming. Indeed. And instead of just putting out YouTube videos, I totally agree, Jody, that to do exactly that. Get you to host it, get Alistair to sponsor it.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
And do what we're doing, play some of these videos, speculate about no, we don't have to do it, but it's fun. We'll do it we'll do it anyway. Thanks for that, Alistair. Terrific guy. And I do hope, I'm keenly interested. I'm starting to believe. At first I thought this was going to be a distraction, but I think they're getting good sponsor awareness for their sponsors. I think they picked up some new sponsors. I think it's keeping their design team. And they're probably, one here is they're starting to learn some things, or they're going to learn some things about the aerodynamics of rigs and so on that maybe they wouldn't learn at other speeds. So in water beds. That gets us to the D block, Julia.
Oh, good.
And
my
we'll
friend.
Wrap this one up. And, you know, Alistair made submissions to this segment of our show. Did you know that, Alistair? You sent me a couple jokes. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
Julia can get her finger ready.
Uh-oh.
Because Ryman sent one. Ryman sent one, too. That's our Whiskey Tango Foxtrot segment. And this first one is clean. It came from, no surprise, from Alistair. The IKEA job interview. Please have a seat.
That's good.
It's clean.
Yes.
If I had a nickel for every IKEA thing I built for Meg, and whether we lived in the U.S. or in Germany or in Spain, and now here, I mean, the Beach Street Yacht Club's got plenty of this. This studio's got IKEA stuff in it, for God's sake.
So in my household, Tom, I'm the only one allowed now to do assemblies of IKEA items. Tracy took upon herself to impress me one day by assembling a chest of drawers, I think it was, and I came home. She was so proud of herself, and I took one look at it and I said, that exposed chipboard is supposed to be at the back, not the front. And we had to completely disassemble it and start from scratch, start it all over again. So she's not allowed anywhere near an Allen key.
I actually like putting the stuff together, and Oh, and it's when you're doing 3 or 4, side tables for beds or something, and okay, I've done this. Do I have to do this again? And even though you can do the second and third one probably in half the time that you can the first time, but this desk is an IKEA desk, I'm pretty sure. Hell, I think this is behind is an IKEA. There's so much IKEA stuff. I love that joke. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Alistair Murray, for that. Now here is another one from Alistair. This is a little rougher. They're cute and seem harmless, but they're loud, incredibly expensive to keep, and absolutely untrainable. The other is a kangaroo. I don't really know much about kangaroo. Julia, is that okay? Is that clean enough?
Yes.
Okay. That was good, Alistair. That also courtesy of Alistair. Now, Julia, you can get your finger ready for this. This one's okay, but it's okay. If men are from, you can read it,
Mars, and women are from Venus, I assume those other genders were pulled out of.
We're pulled out of Uranus.
That one's not from me.
That one is not from Alistair. That is from Ted Ryman, but it was funny. I couldn't help but run it because I still don't get all these different genders. I still think there are. Well, we don't have to get into the politics of that, do we?
0.5% of the world.
Well, yeah, that's just strange. Stingray saying they inspected the containers in that video, in Glenn's video, to make sure there weren't any Kiwis hiding in there. Hey, did you hear about, Alistair, maybe you saw it on your news, we saw it on our news, about a woman who was flying from, I don't know, Dubai or somewhere to Australia, and she came into Australia with a McDonald's Egg McMuffin. Did you see that?
Yeah, we have this show with the customs shows where they I love it when people get busted, bringing stuff in Australia they shouldn't have. And yeah, somebody had a couple of McMuffins and Big Macs wrapped up and brought in when we've got we're trying to keep all that stuff out of this country. It was incredible.
And they give you the warnings when you get on the plane. They give you the warnings when you get off the plane going into Oz. And how can anybody be so stupid as to try to slip?
And that was for hoof and mouth disease. They were pressing it. Yes.
Exactly, Julia.
Oh my gosh.
Well, they wouldn't let me back in because everybody accuses me of having hoof and mouth disease. Stingray says this has become Genders Illustrated.
Oh.
Replying to Ed Worley, absolutely replying to everyone. Okay, so that's enough of those jokes. Alistair, it's been a real pleasure to have you. We just
come back.
Delighted to have you on the show, and we so appreciate it. And I see now that the sun, what is it, 8 o'clock down there?
Yeah. I'll give you a quick look and a few closing words if you wouldn't mind. No, that's yeah. So that's the view. That's the view from my office. So we. Am I closing out now, Tom? Because I'd like to say a couple of words about Sailing Illustrated.
Please do.
Yeah, so look, I'm sure I speak on behalf of all of FOSI when I say this. You do such a great job with this show, Tom. There's an incredible amount of work that goes in behind the scenes to put it together, and you do a really good job with the technical side of it in the way you control in your little control room there. Because I know you're a very small company, put it that way.
And a small control room.
Yeah, exactly. And the chemistry that you and Julia have is wonderful, and it's a really positive thing you put together. And like I said earlier, as one of the FOSI, one of the friends of Sailing Illustrated, it's wonderful to be connected with so many other people around the world, and to feel like that we're part of a community that you've created of people that are passionate about our wonderful sport, and we have fun and we crack some jokes and we laugh and we really enjoy getting together a couple of times a week with our buddies around the world. So just wanted to put my hands together and say thanks, Tom and Julia, for everything you do. It's really great. Well, and it's been a pleasure being your guest.
Yeah. Julia?
Oh, yes, it is the pleasure from this place are the people involved.
Well, it is. And here Stingray is saying, and it's interesting, Julia, whether that's H-E-R-E or H-E-A-R-H-E, it's both. It could be here.
Yes.
Alistair, it's people like you who make our sport so wonderful, and we are so appreciative of what you have done and what you continue to do, not only in Oz, but all around the world. And we have such great people on here. Chris actually saying, well said, Alistair, couldn't agree more. And again, we do it with the show is only possible because of the fantastic Fozy that we have. And a gold medal show, Luca Craig is saying, he's a Kiwi, right? Luca's a Kiwi. So if a Kiwi's saying that about an Aussie, that's good. Ted Ryman is saying, gargle with scotch, Alistair. It will help your voice. I agree with Stingray. It sounds like your voice got better through the show.
I'm amazed. I'm amazed I've survived so well. It's been a good one for me.
Well, maybe this is the antidote to COVID.
Yes.
We got to talk to McIrvin about this next week.
Yes.
Thanks. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed.
Really appreciate it. Ciao for now.
Thank you, guys.
One last look at your beautiful city, and hope to get there soon.
Best place in the world.
Ciao for now. Thanks,
Okay.
Alistair. See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. That does it for us. We're into the final segment here, or past the final segment. We're now into the finish line. And there's really nothing more to say, Julie, except you're a witness.
Yes, this will be especially a good one to like, follow, and share. And sharing does very good things. Just push the button.
Yeah, and I just see that Clark Chapin has signed on, and we should say that Clark's wife, Karen, after a month in the hospital after that horrific car crash on the 4th of July, and she just has come out of the hospital either yesterday or today. She's in a rehab center now and is getting stronger, getting better. She's got lots of obstacles, lots of challenges ahead. But Clark, we're thinking about you and hope that Karen is coming well quickly.
Yeah, she's done so well.
She has indeed. Julie, you want to say this other thing that we always say at the end of the show about comments?
Comments.
It's on your screen.
Not on my screen.
Not on your comment screen.
Well, comments are welcome too, even in replay, and you'll just find great gems that you've missed watching the show.
Indeed, and I see it's lots of comments coming in about Alistair. Patrick Dyer saying Alistair was brilliant, one of your best shows yet. Tom and Julia, a great way to start my Saturday, his Saturday. Clark Chapin, yep, thanks for that. And to all of you, we really appreciate it. David Morris, lots of good wishes going through to Karen Chapin. Let's wrap this up then. If you would, please support us on Patreon. We get a little bit more each month, which helps us pay the bills. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Julia, final word from you?
No, I enjoyed the show today.
I did too. 2 hours and 4 minutes. And we will be back on Tuesday with our good friend, and I would have to ask Clark how many times he's been on, but that is not, that's Andrew in the middle, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin. He will be our guest on Tuesday, and we're going to talk, as I said at the top of the show, about cork, cows, and COVID, and see what, he's there with one of his Maxi owners. That's that picture from the New York Times article about
is it?
Andrew from a few months ago. It's terrific.
He's chosen a great way of life because he gets to travel to exotic places with exotic boats on exotic people and do it in style.
He does that, but he's also he's a bit of a magician because what he does is he herds the cats.
That's right.
Running that Maxi crowd.
Oh gosh, yes.
I mean, it's all but impossible, and he does a fantastic job. We'll look forward to having him on the show on Tuesday. In the meantime, we hope you have a great weekend. And if you can, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. See you on Tuesday. Ciao for now.